like one hand, going big, how much have you lost?
A lot. It's in one specific session, more than the average salary of somebody in the USA.
Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guest. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
Hey guys, I'm really excited. It's going to be a fun day today. I'm bringing you Brad Wilson. And Brad's got a pretty interesting story, and he's already forewarned me he's got a ton of screw-ups that he can share for you guys, so it should be a lot of fun. Really quick off his website, one of the things it says in there is that he thinks a lot, like a ridiculous amount. Pretty much he says it never stops. But I'm not going to try and spit out his bio. I'll leave that over to Brad. So Brad, welcome to the show. Tell us your story, brother.
Hey, Donnie, thanks for having me. Yes, I think a lot. And it's not always beneficial. It's one of those things that I've, in recent years, started meditating to kind of observe the monkey mind and discern which thoughts are good thoughts, which ideas are going to possibly be good to pursue, and which ideas are really just horrible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get hung up on this whole overthinking, process that some people, once they start thinking, man, it's down a rabbit hole and they're gone. Is that what happens to you, or?
For sure. And without meditation, I don't think that I would necessarily recognize it for what it is. For me, like when I wake up and I do my morning meditation, I start seeing the useless thoughts and how they come about. And then I can sort of take action later on in my day where it's, just a split second to realize like, oh, that thought, yeah, get away from me. Like you're not going to do anything positive for my daily experience.
Right. No, that's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are now? What's that story?
That's such a loaded question. So I guess I'll start at 19 years old. I've never been the type of person that loved having a boss. So at 19, a friend of mine got involved with playing poker for a living. His mom was a poker dealer, and he naturally kind of fell into it. And me and him had been online spades partners for probably 4 or 5 years at that point.
Wait, did you say online spades partners?
Correct, yeah.
That's a thing. Like you actually have partners and you go play spades online. That's a thing?
Hey man, when you're 14 years old, you do what you can and what you're interested in. And for me, playing cards, and actually it's not just playing cards, it's games in general. Game theory, playing games with other people, battle of wits. I love that kind of thing. It definitely resonates with me. And as far as spades partners goes, basically you have thousands of people playing spades at the same time. And if you're ultra competitive like I am, it's a partner game, it's a team game. So one of the biggest goals is to find the best possible partner that you can that highlights you and plays well. So me and my friend sort of naturally clicked and did really well together playing spades in high school. And like I said, I'd be in lit class working out spades theory, like on my papers, just trying to figure out optimal bid strategy, optimal play. That's just who I am. And when he fell into poker, it obviously resonated with me because of my previous card playing experience. And at 20 years old, I worked at Applebee's. I saved up like $4,000. I'm pretty sure it's either $3,000 or $4,000. And I moved from Tennessee to Florida, away from everybody that I knew, culturally, just everybody that I knew down south. And, I told everybody that I was going to become a professional poker player. And that's exactly what I did.
Wait, and how old were you when you did this?
When I made the decision, I was 19.
Okay.
And when I moved, I was 20 years old. So I wasn't even old enough to play in a casino yet. In Florida, they have these like gambling boat cruises to nowhere that go out in international waters. And, basically, a 20-year-old kid can't gamble. And yeah, that's what I did. And I got really lucky in the beginning, some money, and just kind of went from there.
Wait, so all right, 20 years old, you moved to Florida to become a professional gambler. How close were you to your parents at that point?
As close as I've ever been.
Well, the reason I'm asking is that they look at you like you were batshit crazy going, what the hell are you thinking?
My parents' reaction, I can't even remember what their reaction was, honestly. I do know that there was no stopping me, number one. Number two, my grandparents certainly had some reservations. Tennessee's the Bible Belt, very religious upbringing, family type thing. So, they didn't really get it. And then, like I said, I told everybody. I told my coworkers at Applebee's. I told my friends who would eat at Applebee's what I was doing. I had Doyle Brunson Super System underneath the server station. And I would show up to work an hour early and I would read that book. And after my shift, I would read Poker Strategy. It was pretty much an obsession, and it's just what I wanted to do. I had coworkers laugh at me in the face when I told them what I was going to do.
And how did you handle when these guys laughed at you? I mean, obviously you really didn't give too much of a whoop about it because you still did it.
So it didn't bother me because I had a lot of information. I had a lot more information than them on which to make my decision. Like I said, I trusted my friend, and I understood not the deep strategies of poker, because even today, there are times where, I question the depth of my knowledge in poker, and I've been doing it for 14 years, and I'm a poker coach, and it's just something that you're never going to be, you're never going to play perfect. But one thing that I've learned over time is sometimes I get introduced to a game. Spades was like this when I was 14, where I play and I don't necessarily understand the depth, but I see the depth. I see the room for growth. And so with poker, when I played, I understood there's a lot here. There's a lot of strategy. You can go super deep. And a lot of people didn't get that, especially back 14 years ago. Poker wasn't super mainstream. I mean, there was like the Chris Moneymaker boom, but people didn't really understand that somebody can do it for a living.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, and I've got a couple of friends that are professional poker players, and one of them is really just trying to get heavy into that arena. But is it a little different because the odds are you're playing against people and not necessarily the casino? Do you have better odds, or do you think the odds are different than playing against the house, if you will?
Yeah, typically you're not going to win playing against the house,
right?
Unless you're MIT blackjack team or capable of counting cards in like a single deck shoe, which I have no knowledge of and am not capable of doing that. But the thing about poker is, like you said, you're playing against people, and people are fallible. People are predictable. People fall into patterns. They do certain things. And when you can predict what people are going to do, then you can generate a natural edge.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So how many years did you play on the boats in Florida?
Not that long. I think it was not even a full year. I think it was about 6 months. I was playing on the boat, had some success, and online poker was sort of a brand new thing back then, but still, it's kind of, they call it the golden age, where it's booming. And I hit a tournament on Party Poker for $15,000. I got fourth in one of their nightly tournaments, and I had some cash saved up, and it was basically, I've lived here for 6 months. I want to go back home. I have enough money. I can play online now. And so I left Florida to come back and live in Tennessee.
So Florida back to Tennessee, and then the career from there, is it all online poker from there, or were you still trying to do the backroom poker parties?
The backroom poker parties. I certainly have experience in the backroom poker parties. Probably some unbelievably ridiculous stories, but it's been a little all over the place. I played online for a long time. There's really no point to playing live. Didn't have a casino close to me in Tennessee, and my hourly rate was just much higher playing online. It wasn't until 2011 when Black Friday, as Black Friday is the day, April 15th, 2011, when the U.S. government seized the top three poker sites, PokerStars, Full Tilt Poker, and Ultimate Bet, Absolute Poker. Online poker, I didn't even know that I could get fired, but I got fired overnight, and that obviously led me to having to travel and play cards more.
Wow, that's crazy. So you were what, 5-6 years into it at that point?
In 2011?
Yeah.
I was 8 years in.
Okay, so 8 years into it, this was your full-time gig playing online poker. and government comes in and shuts it down, a complete right hook. You're not expecting, your world to collapse in 2 seconds. And tons of people have experienced that in different worlds, maybe not necessarily poker, but so now your income stream is completely taken away and you had to go travel. Walk us through that.
Well, it was just sort of a necessity. And I want to say that I had it better than other people. One of my good friends, he closed on his house. I believe it was April 15th, 2011.
Oh, wow.
So, and he is also a professional poker player. So that was not a very good thing for him. And I had experience playing online. A lot of guys that are playing live. I mean, a lot of guys didn't have the live poker experience, but I felt comfortable being face to face. So I started going out to LA. I did find some games around town, I guess. Invite only games around town.
Tell me you walked up to a door, knocked on, the little slot opened, and you got to give a password to get through.
No. That community is pretty small, and believe it or not, I would say that in pretty much any city across the U.S., there's a game going.
Oh, guaranteed.
7 nights a week.
Yep.
And because it's what I did, I had friends that were around me who knew people, and I could get an invite if I wanted it.
So in those type of rooms that you're just playing, not the secret knock type rooms, but are you walking in with? I mean, just because I don't know. I mean, are you walking in with a wad of cash saying, this is what I'm playing with tonight, like you see in some of the movies? Or is there an ATM at the door? I mean, how does it work? Or do you get the really hot chick that walks up with a stack of, chips in front of you?
No, so basically it's the thing is people that play for fairly significant stakes are typically businessmen that play poker as a hobby, or doctors, surgeons, people that just enjoy the game. So it's not like and I'm sure that I have played against people that have participated in illicit activities. I don't know specifically who they are, or what they did, or anything like that. I just know that I'm a numbers person. By the numbers, that's probably something that took place. But 95% of them are prominent businessmen who, golf and play cards as a hobby.
Right. Man, that's so cool. So all of this poker has led you to where? I mean, well, first of all, what's the most amount of money, if you're okay sharing, that you've lost in one go? Like one hand, going big, how much have you lost?
That's a good question. I don't know the specific answer. A lot. It's in one specific session more than the average salary of somebody in the USA.
Wow.
Average yearly salary.
Wow, that's insane.
And I mean, it wasn't a highlight. That debacle, not a highlight on my career. Typically my swings, not very, I mean, relative to that, not very big.
Okay.
But the thing is, when you play live and transition from online, in order to make up the hourly rate, you typically have to play for higher stakes live than online, because online you can play 4 or 6 tables at the same time and get a lot of volume in, whereas in real life you get 35 hands an hour versus the 250 hands online. So in order to make up for the volume difference, you have to play for higher stakes, and if you play for higher stakes, it means that swings are going to be bigger, and you're going to have some really great nights and some really miserable nights.
Nice. Now, I can't imagine betting that kind of money on a regular basis, but if that's your income stream, you get used to it. No, I don't want to say numb to it, but you get accustomed to that kind of lifestyle of betting, not betting, putting it all out there, not putting it all out there. But you also kind of get a rhythm to understand the numbers enough to know what it's going to take to win and what it takes to lose, as long as you don't become addicted to the process, right?
By addiction, you mean like addicted to gambling?
Yeah.
So it's a question that I've gotten in the past. Are you addicted to gambling? Which to me is kind of, because it's what I've done for so long, like, I'll be honest with you, I don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, great, I got, awesome, I get to play cards and play the exact same game that I've been playing the last 14 years. I will make excuses. Like, every poker player that I know has problems with volume, and it's because most people don't wake up with the desire to play cards. They do it as a means to an end. And so I guess there are people who are addicted to playing cards, but those guys probably aren't playing for a living, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know stories of people that done unfortunately, some really tragic things. One committed suicide because he owned a body shop and got so bad that he was betting the payroll of his employees at the casinos and stuff because that's how he was trying to win. So, I mean, there's extreme cases, but like you said, he was not doing that as a career, as a profession. It was a hobby, and he was playing against the house.
That guy that I learned back in Florida to play cards with, I do remember specific situations. He would lose, and one of his biggest leaks was he would lose and refuse to quit. He would play for 60 hours straight trying to get back to even, and I've never had that problem. When nothing's going my way and all of my decisions seem to be poor decisions, I turn the computer off and go about my day, go on a walk or do whatever it is. But he would play for like 48 hours straight. And I remember one specific day that I came and I can't even remember how much he had lost. And he was still playing, had been up forever. And I told him, like, look, let's go to IHOP, get some breakfast. He's like, no. And I'm like, look, if you don't come, I'm going to unplug the computer. I'm going to throw it out in the parking lot, and we're going to go get breakfast. and I would have done it too, because he was going to lose everything, and destroying his computer was probably going to save him whatever it was, $15,000 or $20,000.
Right. Wow.
But I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the perils of gambling, because as a human, this has always been a big struggle for me, because I consider myself a fairly empathetic person. And if I'm making a living playing cards, if I win money on a given day, it's a zero-sum game, so somebody's losing money. Who's the person that's losing money? And how do they feel after they get crushed? Because I know how I feel after I get crushed, and it's not good. That internal struggle is something that I've battled for probably the last decade, and it's one of the reasons why my poker playing has tapered off.
Right. It makes total sense. I mean, I am a very casual player, which means I'll play like once every 3 months, and it's usually family money. You know, we're betting nickels and dimes for a max of $20 or something, so you're not losing a whole lot, just family fun money. So all this poker, and I guarantee you've learned a ton of life lessons, whether it be communication with different types of people to reading people, if you will. I used to talk about people's tells and sales all the time. You know, everybody's got some sort of tell, so I'm sure there's a lot of that. What are you doing now with all this stuff? So you have all this knowledge. I know a poker coach is one of the things you do. Is that your main career, what you do now?
So I do a few things now. I haven't played cards that much over the last few months. I'm a creator at runatoncE.com. It's a premier poker training website, and basically you make videos for them, and you're a sponsored coach, and people can come to you and book sessions and stuff like that. And watch your training videos, you can interact with them. So I do that, but this year the poker's tapered off. I've been focusing on the podcast that I'm launching, and I made a book in the first, I think it was December through March, I was working on completing a book.
Okay. And what's the book about?
Not poker. So the book it's a guided journal for couples. It's illustrated, prompt-based, and basically the intent is to capture your emotions, get them on the page, and give it as a gift to a significant other, so that, in 5 or 10 years you can look back at it and kind of remember those emotions.
Oh, that's very cool. I'm on your website looking at it right now. That's the thoughtful gift, right?
Yeah, thoughtful gift.
Yeah, that is very cool. So what it looks like is it really is a journal that's kind of fill in the blank throughout the process, where people go through and fill in the answers. Is it over a given period of time, or how does it work? I mean, specifically.
Specifically, you just buy it and then fill it in. And the goal in the creation process, like we were talking about, it's hard. Everything, like any project that you undertake, in my experience, is pretty much always harder than the expectation of it. So this journal just came about. My wife and I were visiting family. We were sitting in the back of my mother-in-law's car. She was taking us to the airport, and everybody was kind of talking about the things they were doing in their life. And I just brought up this idea of a book, and my brother-in-law said, "Brad, that's a very thoughtful gift. That's a good idea." And then, as soon as he said that, I was like, "Oh, thank you. That's mine." I'm taking that right away. So now I have a name for my book, and I'm not an illustrator by any stretch. I'm not a visual creator. It's not my talent. So I went to Upwork and got a freelancer. I was trying to get a virtual assistant to help me with all the things that need to be done when it comes to creating a website and stuff like that. And my virtual assistant, as fate would have it, was a graphic design major. And we talked about the book, and I just started giving him ideas for illustrations to create. And then we immersed ourselves in the process for about 3 months. There's probably, God only knows how many different iterations of the journal, and before we were comfortable with putting it up there for sale.
Nice. And how long has this book been on the market now?
I think maybe 3 months.
Okay.
3
awesome.
or 4 months. But then, so like I said, you never understand the depth of a project before you start. And so we get the book done, and there's a million problems that I had to deal with in the book, because my number one goal was to make it simple, easy to fill in, easy to create. But if you do that, you can't, for this specific project, you can't have a 5-page instruction manual in the front of the book, because then when you give it to somebody as a gift, they don't need that. That's information that they don't need. It's not useful to them, right?
Right.
And so we just had problem after problem that we needed to solve. One specific problem is my designer wanted it to be fully customizable, where in the beginning of the book, you paste a picture onto the book of you and a significant other. And I'm like, that's a lot of work because, you have to print out that paper. You have to figure out a way to get it in. I think it complicates the process and makes it harder. And he's very adamant about adding the personalization. So then I came up with the idea that, there's an illustration already there. Let's just put the dimensions underneath the illustration. And if somebody wants to paste a picture, they can. And if not, it's still a full thing, right? So it solved the problem. Another problem that I had when we were making it was there was a serious lack of people in the book. There was a lot of prompts, a lot of words, but it wasn't humanized, And so I was like, we got to put people in there. And then pretty much in the first hour of thinking about that, I realized, well, how do we put people in there? Because there's all different types of relationships, right? There's man-man, woman-woman, man-woman. So by putting man-woman, we're automatically excluding a number of people. So then as these things go for me, I was thinking about that problem, trying to find a solution, and I went to sleep at night. I woke up and it hit me. Just use animals, like anthropomorphize animals, make them human-like, and that way, you know, they're sort of gender neutral in the book. It doesn't disclude anybody.
Interesting. Right. So these characters in the book, what is their role? I mean, are they just the this is you, gender neutral? What is their role?
They're just, you know, they're just characters in like a cute little setting.
Okay.
Like in a car together, or in a picture together that looks kind of like a social media post, like hugging each other or whatever it is, representative of love between two people. Nice.
So to back up just a little bit, you went to Upwork, and for those who don't know, Upwork's a site where you can go and get graphic design work, website work done, just hire people, virtual assistants to help you complete projects and stuff. Very cool site. So when you were working on a book, did you already have the content before you went to Upwork, or did you kind of go to Upwork with a blank slate?
I had the content I was capable of having at that time, which was the name of the book, the layout of the book, all of the prompts that I wanted to use in a specific order that I wanted to use them in. I had that, but I didn't have a solution as to creating all of the illustrations that would go in the book. And I went to Upwork for a virtual assistant that helped me with web-based things, outreach, research, the things that take many hours of my time and that I don't particularly enjoy. I try to outsource those to other people who are more capable than me, so that it frees me up for other things. And I was really just looking for a virtual assistant. And if any of you out there go to Upwork, I'll say this: have patience. If you're looking for somebody that you're going to work with day in and day out, ask very specific questions whenever you're posting your ad, so that the people who are interested have to think and have to write exactly how they would solve the problems, because you really need to know their thought process. You don't want to hire somebody that's like, you know, there's people that just copy and paste default answers to everything, like they automate the process, so it's not even a person that you're dealing with. You certainly don't want to deal with that. And my guy, Clyde, he just knocked it out of the park. I mean, his answers to my questions were above and beyond the scope of what anybody else did. And he stood out, and it was obvious, like, oh, I'm hiring this guy.
Nice. So now you get Clyde helping you out. Took you a few months to get the whole thing hashed out, figured out. Then how did you take it to market? Did you go through Amazon? Did you go through some other self-publishing? Did you go through a publisher? How'd you get the book out?
So I did put it on Amazon. But like I said, you know, this was a new process to me. So there's a lot of things that I needed to learn.
As with everything.
Yeah, I'm not a marketer. I'm not a manager. You know, I don't manage people. So even managing Clyde and managing Clyde's time was a brand new experience for me, and something that I had to learn kind of on the fly. But I used Amazon at first. I uploaded the paperback version, bought my own ISBN number, which is another thing that I didn't know I had to buy an ISBN number, and there's only one company in the U.S. that sells ISBN numbers. And
what's an ISBN number? Because I'm sure somebody's going to ask me.
An ISBN number is basically a way to catalog your book. When publishers, ISBN numbers are, it's like a social security number for a book. And you need it to differentiate between all your different books. So if you have a paperback version and a hardback version, they each need an ISBN number. If you have a digital version, that needs an ISBN number. And like Balkers sells the ISBN numbers in one is like $150, and then 10 is like $300, and then you could buy 1,000, like 1,000 ISBNs for like $1,000. So the more you buy, the bigger discount you get on the ISBN numbers. But effectively, and for anybody out there that has a book or is interested in publishing a book, you can get a free ISBN number from CreateSpace. So the benefit in having your own ISBN number is if you sell, say, 100 copies and somebody looks up your book via ISBN number, they'll see all the books that you specifically have published. If you get one from Amazon, they'll see all the books under Amazon's CreateSpace banner. So you really, it's your intellectual property. It's your thing. If you're going to put the time and energy into making your book, it's just one of those expenses that I think are necessary. But with that said, I initially published a softcover version, ordered one for myself, realized that the softcover version didn't exactly resonate with me because my book is supposed to be a gift to a significant other. It wasn't very durable. So I went with Ingram Spark, who offers a hardback version, uploaded a new ISBN number, and, that's how
Nice.
I did the self-publish.
Now, and then with the hardback, you're still selling that back through Amazon, or are you doing that through your website and stuff?
So it's print on demand. So
Okay.
I do sell it via Ingram Spark, but I gotta say, it's hard. With a hardback version specifically, my cost per book with shipping, handling, all that stuff is about $15 a unit for print on demand. So you go to my website, you buy it for $25. I get it printed and shipped to you. It costs me $15 a unit, which is quite a significant cost to me.
Right.
And I've also found out too, like, if you want to sell books, I'm not a salesman. I'm not a marketer. I realized nobody's going to just come begging for my book, right? I had to find what kind of stores would my book be a good fit. And then, it's pounding the pavement. It's sending out emails. It's doing prospecting, finding a way to get your book into the stores where people are primed to make a purchase. Because this is another thing with Facebook, and people complain all the time. I see it in all the groups that I'm in about nobody's clicking on my ad. Nobody's buying my thing or going to my website to buy my thing. Well, it's because people aren't on Facebook to buy. They're not primed to buy something. People are on Facebook to socialize. They're on Facebook to see the status updates of their friends, maybe check out some news. They're not going to just buy from somebody that they've never heard of, never seen before. So you have to create a sales funnel. You have to warm people up to you, get them to know you, trust you, and then once they're a warmer lead, then you send them to your website to make the purchase. It's a fairly complicated process with a lot of testing.
And I'm glad you walked us through it, because I think a lot of people have this desire to write a book, get published, the whole 9 yards. And anytime somebody comes up to me, and I'm still working on my book, but one thing that I learned quickly in the process is nobody gets rich off of selling books. Unless you're Stephen King, or you got somebody who's, like that, or J.K. Rowling, who wrote, the #1 best-selling series in history. You don't write a book to get rich. You write a book because it's a passion project. You write a book because you want to get a message out there. You want a book so you can add added value to people through their journey and their process, and it just becomes part of your repertoire. Do you see it the same way, or?
Oh, yeah. I have no illusions of becoming super wealthy because of creating a thoughtful gift. My whole thing is just manage my expectations, do the things that give me results. And that thing, for me, the easiest way to get results is contacting the stores where I think my book would be a good fit, getting it in the stores, and building relationships with those people. And, it's a revenue stream. It's an income stream, just like other things. And if you can automate the process, if you can simplify it as much as possible, then, maybe you can make an extra couple $100 a day.
Right. I love what Wayne Dwyer did. It's one of the coolest stories about selling a book. And what he used to do is, before the internet and all that, he would call up, local towns and get a speaking gig in that town. On his way to the town, he would look up and, pull up the yellow pages and find the name of every radio or every bookstore in town. And he would then go do his speech. He'd then do a radio interview at the local station there, and he would be talking about his theories and his thoughts. And at the end of every one of his speeches or radios, people would say, well, where can we get your book at? He's like, oh, it's down the street at this local bookstore. And he'd name off 2 of the local bookstores. Well, as soon as he got off the radio or out of that speech, he'd drive to that local bookstore. And by the time he got there, 6 or 7 people had already called the bookstore saying, hey, we're trying to get this book. And he'd walk up and go, oh, would you like a couple? I'll just leave them here and see if you sell them. And so he became his own machine as he went across the United States doing these phone interviews and speaking engagements and just telling everybody that his book was at these local bookstores. And that's how he got the churn to sell thousands and thousands of his books. It was just a great hustle on his part.
Yeah, that's super clever. It's super clever. And he also basically – did the same thing. He warmed up his audience, got them used to him, got them liking him. And then when asked about his book, people were interested.
Absolutely.
I think it's a really clever way to do things. And whenever you're undertaking any project, you kind of have to think outside the box, and you got to do things that are uncomfortable, quite honestly.
Yeah. I mean, to take another one and to give you an idea is Zig Ziglar, when he got his first book, which was See You at the Top, it required at that point you have to have sold 25,000 books to become a New York Times bestseller. Zig went out and actually purchased his first 25,000 books, and he filled his garage with them. And him and his wife used to drive around boxes of their books and then go to his speaking engagements and sell them at his speaking engagements. But that's how See You at the Top became a #1 best-selling author, because he bought all the 25,000. So, it's like you said, it's just thinking outside the box to make sure you're getting your message out there in a cool way. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's thinking about the problem in an in-depth way and realizing, Zig Ziglar thought about it a little differently when they said 25,000 to get on the New York Times bestseller list. A lot of people think, okay, how the hell do I move 25,000 books to get myself on this thing? He thought, okay, they have to be purchased. I'll do it, and then I'll sell them. I'll take up, the initial cost, and then I'll go out. And also, he probably sold more at the time because of that distinction on the New York Times bestseller list that he can, then put on his books, and it's a huge credibility indicator. So it's like, who's going to be selling my book? And I got to go talk to them, and I have to work out an arrangement to buy that book. And that's really.
Yeah, I have a friend that her book just came out, and we were in a discussion with another gentleman, and she said, I need to sell 1 million of my books to be able to hit enough of the market space to make the impact on society that I want to. And the gentleman we were talking to, a guy named Colin, he's like, well, quit thinking that you've got to sell 1 million individual books. What if you found 4 people that bought 250,000 versions of your book? And it's just it's that thought process of putting things into a different perspective. And since then, she's actually gone out and found an association that bought 250,000 of her books to give out to all of her people. So don't get stuck in what you know or what's right in front of you.
Sometimes you're too far in the forest to see the trees.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your podcast that's coming up that you're getting ready to launch, I believe.
Correct. My podcast is called The Process, and it breaks down an ideal day in the life of high achievers. And I know that's a pretty intangible thing, a high achiever, right? How do you quantify that?
That was going to be my question, so thanks.
Right. You quantify it by me. It's my solely biased opinion as to quantifying who is and who is not a high achiever. But basically, people do amazing things. People accomplish just unreal things. I'm always amazed at the things that people do. And I always want to know, what's their process? What did they do on a daily basis? Exactly. Specifically, what do they do? Not what do they sell, not what are they pitching. What do they outsource? What tasks don't they like, and do they outsource? And what kind of system does that look like? Because, I want those systems in my own life, and I think most people do want those systems. So people that have already found success, their systems work, their processes are obviously working. What are their weaknesses? What are their weaknesses that they've had to overcome, and what steps did they take to overcome them? What did they waste 1,000 hours into learning that proved pointless and a waste of time? Because I might be able to save 1,000 hours by them telling me, look, like I thought this was a big deal. It wasn't that big of a deal. This is how I went around it. And so my podcast is basically just me satisfying my own curiosity about people that do really awesome things that I find impressive.
Right. Right. Now that's awesome, man. But it's going to be one hell of a show. Are you bringing guests on? Is it just going to be, are you going solo? I know there's a lot of different styles to podcast. What are your plans?
Well, if I was going solo, I think that might be like the shortest run of a show ever. It's like 15-minute monologue of the stuff that I do. Okay, I'm done forever. I hope 1 billion people listen to this.
Right.
No, I'm doing continual outreach, looking within my network and without my network, and it's a very laboring process finding people that I really want to know how do they do it? What exactly do they do every single day? Right. So it's interview style. I have specific questions that I ask, and then I have, following the tangent that's interesting, following a thread. A lot of it's freestyle, and typically my show goes for 1 hour to 2 hours. Okay. Awesome. Well, man, Brad, I got to tell you, dude, I really enjoyed having you on the show. I love the story and journey. What are you hoping people reach out to you for? How are you helping people with their journeys as they go through life? With my podcast especially. The poker is sort of a singular type thing. I haven't been coaching as much since I've been working on creating the book and then launching the podcast. But for me, I look at myself as being in service of my guest, number one, and my audience. And that requires that I spend as much time possible creating something that my guests love. Because if my guests love it, then they're going to share it with their audience. And if my guests love it, their audience is likely to love it as well. And that to me is sort of the secret sauce of, getting traction. And on top of the podcast, I have another thing that I'm doing where I'm inviting my guests to come back for like a 1 hour Q&A, where when they listen, when my audience listens to the podcast, and I do this too, I think to myself, God, I wish he would have asked a question about X, Y, or Z, right? Like, why didn't he ask that? I want to know. But unfortunately, I'm listening to the Tim Ferriss show and he's interviewing, Jamie Foxx or whoever it is. I don't have a line to Jamie Foxx, right? I can't find him and ask the question that I want answered. So I'm inviting my guests to come back at whatever time's convenient for them for a Facebook Q&A or an Instagram Q&A with my audience. And I'm letting my audience send in questions that they specifically have either to me or more specifically to my guest. That's cool. So that we can drive some engagement and interaction, and my audience can get those questions answered. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, I'm in service of my audience. It's not about me. It's not even about the things that I want to know more about. It's what does my audience want to know more about? How do I give them the value that they need? Awesome.
Well, Brad, seriously, man, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate the knowledge and let me pick your brain about the poker world. That was a lot of fun. And the journey you have coming up with you with the thoughtful gift, the book. I love that, guys. Go get that journal. I think it'd be fun for you, take you and your spouse through. The podcast coming up, dude, that's huge. I love the style. I love the format. If you were to leave my audience with one phrase that they could carry with them through the rest of their journey, something that would be impactful for their life as they continue on and go through life, what would be that one thing that you would leave or tell them?
So, Donnie, I'm pretty long-winded. One short phrase, I don't know. That's that's a super. I have a million things that immediately spring to mind.
Hit me with the first one.
The first one is, in your professional life, do your best. Always do your best. Whatever it is, don't take shortcuts. Make the best thing that you can possibly make, and then try to figure out how you can make it better. And if you want success in your professional life, I think if you just keep doing that over and over and over again, the side effect is success. For life, I'm a big believer in having empathy for other people and not taking things personally. Before you get angry or fly off the handle, just take a moment, reflect, take a deep breath. Everything's probably going to be okay. And try to have empathy for people, because I believe that most of the suffering in the world would be solved if everybody just developed their empathy.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, dude, seriously, thank you for being on the show today, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and following you along your journey and, listening to your podcast when that thing gets up and rolling.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You know what, guys? Really, thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was, because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people, and from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, like for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, "Get my social content done right now."